Okay. So last day we just been talking about data types, right? We have been talking about conditional statements. I'm sorry, we've just been talking about the conditional statements. In this process, I just been explaining about the if condition. Okay, we just been talked about the if condition and how exactly the if condition is going to behave. Okay, so that's what about the if condition, what I shown you in the last class. The next thing is just going to be the switch case. When you talk about the switch case, guys, the way you write the switch case statement, we use like double D is equals to, if O is D. I did not understand this question. What is this? If O is D, yeah. See, you can't write O is D, okay? You need to say O is double, not O is D. It is performing, see what I said about the is operator will perform you type comparison. So you need to compare it with a type. You need to compare it with a type there. So this is the question. Yeah. Declared D here. Okay, this is double. Afterwards assigned to it, performed boxing. So what is this? This is boxing. This is boxing. We just performed boxing here. Now you can perform a comparison. We can perform a comparison. What is this? If O is double. The question what I was asking is Asaram. O is D. That is wrong. You can't write O is D. Okay. So O is double. We are just trying to compare it with a type. We are trying to compare it with a type there. Understood? So type comparison, that's what it is used. As means, as is not for type comparison, as is conversion. You want to convert from one type to another type, we use the as operator. Is type comparison, as is type conversion. Okay. Yeah. The next thing what we have is a switch case statement, guys. The next thing what we have is a switch case statement. Switch case. So talking about the switch case, how do you write a switch case is exactly the same way. How do you write a switch case in your how do you write a switch case in your C language, guys? So this is also exactly the same way. How do you write a switch case in your C language? So we'll be writing switch case now. So this is also the same process of writing the switch case. If you look at this, the syntax, watch it. Switch, expression, case, value, some set of statements, and afterwards break. And here what you can do? Multiple case blocks. Afterwards, default, and then we write some statements, and then we write break, Okay, so this is the syntax of the switch case statement. Look at the syntax here. This is the same thing what we learned in C language also now, but there is a difference. Can anyone identify? There is a difference in the way you have used the switch case statement here. Identify. Look at the syntax. There is a difference between the regular switch case and this one. Yeah, we are writing a break after default here in C language and C++ language. We did not write a break after default. After default break is not there. But here if you observe, there is a break after default also. That is the difference. So basically there is what is it? Some changes are there, some enhancements are there. My point here is to give you a clarity about the changes and the enhancements. This is the change. The syntax of the switch case statement has been changed. What is that? Now break is mandatory after default also. Now break is mandatory after default also. But if you work with your older languages like C or C++, we never use break after default, but here break should be present after default also. So every block should end with a break. Every block should end with a break. Even default also should end with a break actually. Okay. So that is the difference what we have. You can see. How does a switch case execute? How does a switch case execute? The execution of a switch case statement is exactly somewhat means basically first what happens, the expression is evaluated, some result will come, the result is compared with the value here. If they are matching, the result is compared with the value here. If they are matching, the corresponding statements will execute. Did you catch my point or not? First what will happen, expression evaluates, you get some result, result is compared with the value. Wherever it matches, the corresponding statements will execute. Okay, now it is something like an attendance in a classroom, guys. The execution of a switch case statement is very similar to an attendance in a classroom. If you observe the attendance process in a classroom, the teacher calls the number 1, the student with the number responds. Got my point? Whatever number the teacher calls, the appropriate student will respond for that now. Are you clear? So this what? So the behavior of a switch case is exactly very similar to the behavior to an attendance process in a classroom. Okay, watch. Using system class switch demo static void main. Okay, now see, I'm just prompting here, console.write, enter student number. I'm just prompting enter student number. You can enter some number now. You'll enter whatever you want, but see, I'm just giving you some boundaries between 1 to 5. A number within 1 to 5. Okay. And now student number is integer na. Int s number is equals to int dot parse. Last class I explained to you this, remember? Writing on the same line. We're just going to write it on the same line. Int dot parse console dot read line. We are just reading it, converting into integer, storing it in the yes number. Okay, next. Switch yes number. I using a switch case now. Okay, next. Case 1. Case 1. Console dot write line. Simply student 1. Student 1. And after this, you must write break statement for sure. That is what I'm telling you. This is mandatory. Break is mandatory after each and every block. You can't escape from that. Okay. Next. You can have more cases. Case 2, case 3, case 4, case 5. Student 2, student 3, student 4, and student 5. And then what do you write? Default. Console dot write line. No student exists with the given number. Array, you're given a wrong number here, outside 1 and 5. So then automatically it goes to the default and just go for break. Again, here also break statement should be. So break is mandatory after every block. That's what a point is. After default also, we just required to go for writing the break statement. I hope the point is clear. Yes or not. So this is how you just go for using the switch case statement here now. Okay. Last line. Oh. Yeah. Thank you. CSC switch demo.cs. Student 3. If you give anything wrong, suppose I'm giving 8. No student exists with given. Okay now? Guys, behavior same only here. Behavior did not change. Behavior is same. Only thing is, we need to add break after default. That's all. Apart from that, we don't have any difference between the switch case statement, what we learned in our old languages, and the switch case statement, what we learned it right now. Both are exactly same. Okay now? Fine. Next. What next? These are the two conditional branching statements. See, in if condition and switch case, we are writing multiple blocks. But only what we notice, one block only will execute. Multiple blocks won't execute, only one block will execute. If also same behavior, switch case also same behavior. And the next thing what we have is loops. Loops, conditional loops. So when we talk about this conditional loops, in case of conditional loops, what happens is we'll be having only a single block of code. But that single block of code executes repeatedly. Repeatedly, it is going to execute the code until a certain condition is met. Okay. So it is just going to execute repeatedly. There will be a single block of code, but that single block of code will be executing for you repeatedly. That is what we call as a conditional loop. Okay. So examples: for loop, while loop, do while loop, for each loop. Fourth loop I said you, for each loop. Okay, we'll talk about for each loop in detail, but there are 4 loops to you totally. For loop, while loop, do while loop. These 3 are present in C also. So now I said you some changes are there. Coming to change, I shown you the change in the switch case. Now some changes are there, enhancements are there. What are the enhancements? We got a new loop now. What is a new loop? For each loop. And remember guys, every loop requires 3 things to execute. Every loop requires 3 things to execute. What are the 3? Initialization, condition, not increment or decrement. Iteration. Not increment or decrement. It is iteration. Initialization, condition, and the third one is iteration. What is initialization? Initialization will always set you the starting point of the loop, from where the loop should start. Condition decides when the loop should end. That decides the ending point of the loop. Initialization will decide your starting point of the loop. Condition will decide your ending point of the loop. Third one is iteration. What is iteration? Iteration will take you to the next level of this cycle. Iteration will take you to the next level of the cycle. The next level of the cycle, either in a forward direction or a backward direction. If it is a forward direction, it's a increment. If it's a backward direction, it is a decrement. But we call it as iteration. Is that clear? So for every loop, these 3 things are common. So how do we write these loops now? Okay, the first loop is the for loop. The first loop is going to the for loop. Okay, how do you write your for loop? Watch guys, look at the syntax. For, initializer, condition, iteration. And here, some set of statements. And here is an example code for you. Watch. What it prints. Tell me, look at that and tell me what it prints. It will print you from 1 to 100. Int I is equals to 1, starts with 1. I less than or equal to 100, ends at 100, I plus plus. Console.write line, I. So it is going to start from 1 and stop at 100 and prints you 1 to 100. Okay. So this is your for loop syntax. Same, no changes. Next one. While also no changes. See there, while condition statements. Okay. And you can see the example code also. Int I is equals to 1. What is that? Initialization. Okay. And while I less than or equal to 100. What is that? Condition. And these are the statements. What is this? Iteration. I plus plus. So actually, this also will print you 1 to 100 only. This also prints you 1 to 100 only. There is no difference at all. There is no difference. Actually, for loop and while loop are exactly same. For loop and while loop are exactly same. But when do we use a for loop? When do we use a while loop? You know, for loop will be used when you know the iteration count. When you know it should execute for 10 times or 20 times or 100 times or 1000 times, then we use a for loop. But when do we use a while loop? You know, we use while loop until something returns true. Something returns false. Until something returns false. Tomorrow, you are going to access some records from a database table. Listen carefully. You are going to access some records from a database table. Today, the table has 100 rows. I want to loop now and pick one by one row now. I want to loop and pick one by one row. I know the table contains 100 rows. Can I use the for loop now? I know the table contains 100 rows. Can I use the for loop or not? I can use the for loop for int I is equals to 0, I less than or equal to I less than 100, I plus plus, and run the loop now. But tomorrow, see the problem here. I written the loop for running for 100 times. But tomorrow the table contains 200 rows. Next day 300 rows. Next day 400 rows. Afterwards some rows are deleted and rows are 50 only. But here you written a loop. What is that loop to run for 100 times? Did you understand? When I written the code, there are 100 rows only. But later on the number of rows increased in the table. Problem comes here. In such type of scenarios, we cannot use for loops. What we use is while loops. We use while loops. Until data present, run the loop. Maybe 10 rows there, maybe 20 rows there, maybe 30 rows there, or 1000 rows there. The loop keeps on executing until the data is coming. Is it clear? So when you know the correct count, then use for loop. When you don't know the correct count, then use while loop. For example, I'll tell you, table, take a table. Do you know the number of columns in the table? Do we know the number of columns in a table? It's a general question here. Table, talking about a table. Do we know the number of columns in the table? Yes. Without knowing the number of columns in the table, you can never work with a table. Without knowing the number of columns of the table, you can never work with a table. So we know the number of columns, and columns are always fixed. We know the number of columns. The columns are always fixed. It is fixed. But do we know the number of rows in the table? No, we never know the number of rows in the table. Why, sir? You take a banking application. Okay, today there are 100 customers in the bank. Tomorrow new accounts will be opened now. This count will keep on increasing now. After 1 year, the number of customers will be only 100. But columns won't increase. Columns are fixed, but rows are increasing. So when you are accessing columns, you can use for loop. But when you are accessing rows, you cannot use for loop. What should you use? While loop. Other than that, for and while are same. For and while are same. Understood? Both will execute in the same style. Initialization first, later on checks the condition, and then continues the loop to you. Third loop. What is the third loop? See the syntax. Do statements. While condition. You see the example code. Int I is equals to 1. Initialization. Okay. And afterwards, you're just going to write condition, sorry, no condition. Afterwards, statements. Next, iteration. And in the last, condition. In the last, you have your condition. Just a second. The condition will be in the last, guys. The condition will be in the last. Okay. So this is a do while loop. This also will print you from 1 to 100 only. All the three are doing the same job only, printing from 1 to 100. But what is the difference between coming to for and while? I already clarified you. For and while are same, no difference. But what about the do while? Is there a difference in the execution of the do while? Statements will? Means all statements are. So tomorrow if you ask the question in interviews, what is the difference between a while loop and a do while loop, or a for loop and a do while loop? The answer is the minimum number of executions, for a for loop and while loop is 0. The minimum number of executions for a for loop and while loop is 0. Why 0? If the condition satisfies only, it enters into the loop. If the condition doesn't satisfy, it will never enter into the loop. Watch, here I'm writing, look at this, all of you. Here I'm writing int I is equals to 1000, I less than or equal to 100, I plus plus. Will the loop run now? The loop won't run. Why the loop won't run? You initialize I with 1000. You initialize I with 1000. Go and sit in the class. Sit here. Okay, you're just going to see that I is equals to 1000. Now what? I less than or equal to 100. Condition failed now. Correct? Huh? Loop stops. Condition failed. Loop stops. Loop will not execute here. Loop is not going to execute. Same way here also. True or false? Now also condition false. Loop won't run. Loop stops. Okay. So the first point, understand. The minimum number of executions for for loop and while loops is 0. Because the loop starts execution only when the condition is satisfied. But when you come to do while loop, the minimum number of executions are 1. For a do while loop, the minimum number of executions are 1. Why? Because the condition check is performed after the executing the loop for first time. When is it checking the condition? After the first time execution, it checks the condition. For example, look at, sorry, not while loop, just come to do while loop. I'm writing here what? 1000. But still, see the condition? Condition true or false? Condition false, but still the loop will run one time. But still the loop will run one time guaranteed. Why one time guaranteed? Because it is checking in the condition in the bottom here. Yes or not? Where is it checking the condition? In the bottom. See, it will enter here. First prints 1000. Now I will become 1001. Comes here. Condition false. Loop stops. Okay, now. So did you understand the difference? So when you want to execute a minimum one time, you should go for using do while loop. No. I want to execute for 0 times. Then for loop or while loop. For and while, already you know the count for. You know the count while. Point clear? See here, today I'll tell you best example where the do while loops can be used here. Okay, where the do while loops can be used here. What is that? Abhijit, that HTML, CSS, JS, which is started in the morning, that is not for you. That's only for online students. For you, they are planning for starting, for you, they are planning to start SQL, guys, not HTML, because in our C#, you have ADO.NET. By the time you reach ADO.NET, you're required to do your SQL server. So they're planning for SQL server. Right now, faculties are busy. So they will be just starting an SQL server batch mostly in this week. Are you clear? Okay. So all of you, so many people put a message in the group also. Can we go for the morning 7 o'clock? No, that's not for you. That is online, only online, pure online. Okay. So for you, it will be started. Don't worry, because what you read now is not not HTML. What you need now is SQL server. Okay. We'll plan SQL server, we'll start SQL server. Do while loop is executed, okay. When do we use a do while loop? We'll start, I'm telling me when is the bad time you're asking. Don't know, yeah, they're going to plan it. Not decided. In this week, you will get an update about the batch, okay? Yeah, so what I'm just telling you is, you're talking about a for loop and while loop, the minimum number of executions are 0. But when you talk about do while loop, the minimum number of executions are 1. Understood? Because here, even the condition fail also, it executes for one time. Yes, here, someone, who is that? Asaram. You will get the same output only, because here also see, I am just going to write this code. Now also, this also prints you from 1 to 100 only. All three are printing from 1 to 100 only now. It depends upon your logic. You return the logic like this means it executes one time only. So when do we use the do while loop is, listen. For example, right now we don't have this option here, but when ATM machines are introduced in our country, remember, when ATMs came in our country, in my college days, when I was just studying my college, at the time when ATMs came in the country, I still remember this one. At the time, ATMs provided an option for doing multiple transactions. Today we don't have multiple transaction options. How many transactions we can do? One only. Not total, yeah. Once you swipe your card, you can do one transaction only. You cannot do second transaction. If you want to do second transaction, again you're required to swipe the card. Yes or not? Once you swipe the card, it will allow you to do only one transaction. More than one transaction is not allowed. But I remember when ATMs are introduced in our country, I remember there is an option to do multiple transactions. When we insert the card in the machine, you enter the PIN number, you do a transaction, and at the end of the transaction, it used to ask, what you know, do you wish to continue? Do you wish to continue with an yes or a no button? When I click on the yes, again the menu opens, again I can do one more transaction. Again in the end, it used to ask, do you wish to continue? Like this process used to go on. Are you clear? When it used to ask, do you wish to continue? In the end of the transaction. In the end of the transaction, it will ask you, do you wish to continue? In the starting of the transaction, it won't ask you. When it asks you, end of the transaction. That's a perfect example for a do while loop. That's a perfect example for a do while loop. See, you go to an ATM machine. You put your card inside. Okay? You came to an ATM machine to do some transaction or to enjoy the AC in the ATM? Why did you go? Some transaction, no? Means one transaction is guaranteed, right? So that's why first time it won't ask you. When it will ask you, end of the transaction, you put the card and if it shows you a message, do you wish to continue? That is foolish now. I came to do some transaction only. Why are you asking me that? Are you clearer or not? You find someone in a cinema theater and ask him, you came to movie? He's in the cinema theater, yeah? He came to movie only, not to sell popcorn there, no? So exactly, one transaction is guaranteed. So what is that? Second transaction may not be guaranteed. So that's why in the end of the first transaction, it is going to ask you. What it is going to ask you? Do you wish to continue? So that's a perfect example for a do while loop. Means the loop starts now. First transaction completed. Last it will ask you. Do you wish to continue? Yes. Loop runs. No. Comes out. Are you clearer or not? In that type of scenarios, we go for using the do while loops. Are you clear with the three loops now? I did not teach you how the loop run. I was only telling you when to use what. When should I go for using a for loop? When should I go for using a while loop? And when should I go for using a do while loop? And mainly the difference between for while and do while. For and while, same. Minimum count, 0. Do while, minimum count 1. Okay? So that's what. In ATM, minimum one transaction is guaranteed. Correct? So that's why we are using do while here. Okay? Next, what is the fourth one? For each. The fourth loop is for each. Guys, this for each loop is specially designed. The for each loop is specially designed for accessing the values from arrays and collections. For each loop is specially designed for accessing the values from arrays and collections. Tomorrow, I will start with arrays. I'm not stopping the class here. Tomorrow, we'll start with arrays. When I start with arrays tomorrow, I'll teach you how to use the for each loop. Is that clear, all of you? I will start arrays tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll teach you how to use for each loop. Okay, now? So, but that is, you can see the syntax. This is the syntax. For each type, variable name in array name or collection name, and then you go for writing the statements. Okay. For each loop is specially designed for accessing values from an array or collection. So tomorrow I'll teach you arrays, guys. When I teach you arrays, I'll explain you in detail about how the for each loop is used. So ignore it now. I explained you the 3 loops. The 4th loop is pending. Tomorrow we'll talk about it. Okay. Next. The next thing is, guys, do you remember this? We learned about this in your C language. Jump statements. Jump statements. What's a jump statement? What the jump statement? What is the jump statement? Again, don't give me examples of jump statements. My question is, what is a jump statement? Simple English here. You don't require to be an expert in C language. To minimum common sense, if you apply it, understand that jump statement jumps from one place to, it jumps from one line to another line. It is going to jump from one line of execution to another line of execution. That is what we call as a jump statement. A statement which is going to transfer from one line of execution to another line is what we call as a jump statement. You're typing wrong here. Notepad, very space there. When you're typing, you type like this, notepad. Space should be given there, na? Adnums dot CS. If it is there, it will open here. If it is not there, it will ask you to create here. You're typing wrong. If you type wrong, it will do here. What are you doing, You type, guys, all of you. Without that, if you type adnums.cs, what will happen? It will open in Visual Studio. It will open in the Visual Studio. You should be clear with the commands what I'm using. You're directly typing of something. If you type of something, that type of problems only will come. You should type notepad, file name. Okay? If present, opens you. If not present, then it is going to create you. If you don't write notepad and say adnums, it will open you Visual Studio only. Can we open Google browser like this? You can open anything like this. If you know the exe name, you can open anything. I already shown you opening notepad and everything. If you know the exe name correctly, you can type it and open the browser also. Anything can be opened. Okay. Coming back, what we're talking about? Jump statements. What is jump statement? It transfers the control from one line to another line. It is going to transfer from one line to another line, and that's what we call as a jump statement. Okay. And do you remember what are the jump statements you learned in C? Now tell me examples of jump statements. Go to, break, continue, return. There are 4 jump statements basically here. What are the 4 Go to, break, continue, return. Okay, 4 jump statements. The first one is go to. What is this go to? Go to actually jumps from one place to another line. From one line of execution to another line. See, from where to where it has to go, you need to tell that now. Yes or not. Concentrate on the screen. Don't look into your notes. Don't look into your notes. I asked you to bring the notes as a reference to you. But don't look into the notes. Concentrate here. Okay. So go to, when you want to just use go to from one place to another place, you're required to tell from where to where it has to jump now. Yes or not. So how do we tell that? How do we tell from where to where it has to jump now? Say, look at this code, all of you. Go to XXX. Go to XXX. When I say go to XXX, all of you concentrate. When I say go to XXX, The control is jumping from here to here. So what is this? XXX is the location where I'm asking to jump. And this is, we call this as a label. We call this as a label. What is a label? Any identifier followed by a colon is what we call as a label. So you're going to jump from there. What is the output of the code? Tell me. If I write the 4 lines of code in the main method now, what is the output? Go to called. It will print you go to called. It is going to print you go to called now. Understood my point? Okay. What it prints you? Go to called. When I say go to XXX, it's going to print you go to called, and the control will jump from here to here. Okay, na? Are you clear? Okay. So that's what. So it is jumping from here to here. See, go to. It allows us to jump directly to another specified line in the program. Another specified line in the program indicated, just a minute guys, indicated by a label, which is an identifier followed by a colon. Anything that is suffixed with a colon is basically what we call as a label. So what is the syntax? Go to. What is the syntax? Go to label. The syntax is go to label. And here you write the label name. So it will jump from here to here. Okay, na? So this is about a go to. This is about a go to statement. Second one is break. The second one is break. What is break? Actually, this break is something. What we use is break is something what we use in a loop here. We use it in the loops. Actually, we use break in 2 scenarios. What are the 2 scenarios, you know? One is we use it in switch case. Already shown you now in the morning, switch case. For what? To jump out of the case. Second scenario where we use, we use it under loops to terminate a loop. We use it under loops to terminate a loop. For example, how to use in switch case already I shown you in the morning. How do we use it in a loop means, what's this? For int I equals to 1, I less than or equal to 100, I plus plus, console dot write line I, console dot write line end of the loop. Tell me, what is the output of this? Prints you 1 to 100, afterwards end of the loop. It will print you 1 to 100, afterwards end of the loop. Correct? But guys, suppose if I write, if I equals to 50, break. The output is 1 to 50, end of the loop. The output is 1 to 50, end of the loop, because the break statement will immediately take you out of the method. The break statement will immediately take you out of the loop. Will immediately take you out of the loop. When I say break, jumps out of the loop now. Are you clearer? So 2 scenarios we go for using the break statement. The first scenario is switch case to come out of a case block. Second scenario is we use it under loops to terminate a loop. To terminate a loop. So now when I say this, you'll have a doubt here. What is the doubt? Sir, why are you writing execute from 1 to 100? And again, if it is 50, break. If you want to print from 1 to 50, you can directly write I less than equal to 50 only here. Na? Yes or not? My intention is not printing from 1 to 50 here. My intention is to tell you how to use a break statement. Are you clear? I don't want to print 1 to 50. If you want to print 1 to 50, I'll write 1 and 50 only there. My intention is to tell you how to use a break. Tomorrow when a loop runs now, something going wrong, something going on wrong. So break statement should immediately stop. Are you getting my point or not? Okay, see, today, if at all you see, like some machines and all, in case of emergency, these machines will suddenly stop up there. That's based on the coding that internally some software behind the screen which will make that to do. If anything goes wrong, the machine will stop. The machine will stop suddenly. Okay, so two means, for example, I'll tell you, there is a 100-floor building here. You have a lift. You have a lift. You can click on the appropriate button and you can go to the appropriate floor now. You want to go to 100th floor now. You press 100, it will go to 100. Yes or not? After going to 100th floor, it will stop you there. But still in a lift, you find a stop button. Yes or not? But in a lift, you find a stop button or not? Why, sir? Why do I need a stop button? Once it goes to my floor, it will stop there now. Why should I use the stop button? Use the stop button in case of emergency. In case of any emergency, use the stop button to stop the lift there. Are you clear? Stop button is not used every day. You don't click on the stop button to stop a lift anytime. We use the stop button only in the emergency scenarios. Here also, like that only, we just use some conditions in the code in the real time. If that condition is met, something is wrong, and we will break it. We will break the loop there and immediately bring it outside. Are you clearer or not? Understood my point here? So in that type of scenarios, we just go for using some break. Suppose I want to process some data from a database. I want to process some data from the database. There are a million records in the table. There are a million records in the table. Are you clear? Okay. But in that scenario, I'm loading up all the million records on the table. But my condition is I want to pick only 100 records. I can use breaks like this in that type of scenarios. After processing 100 records, immediately stop it and come out of this. Emergency scenarios, in case of any emergency scenarios, we put conditions and use break. Clearer or not? Okay. Say, otherwise you take a printer. You're printing some notes. You're printing some notes from 100 pages. But after printing 50 pages, ink is dried. There is no ink there. Have you noticed it? The printer stops there. Yes or not? If the printer runs like this, the printer head to get spoiled. So what will happen? Ink is completed. Printer will stop. There is a condition behind the code here. Printer running, printing also is a software only. That is also one software. And that software checks. If ink is dried, break. Stop it. Don't go ahead. Understood? Huh? If ink is present, the loop runs now and prints you all the pages. At 50th page, ink is completed. Break will execute and print will stop. Okay, now. So that is the scenarios where we go for using the break statement to terminate a loop in the middle. To terminate a loop in the middle, we just go for using the break statement. Third one. First one is go to. Second one break. Third one continue. When should we use continue? Look at this. What is the output again? 1 to 100, end of the loop. Now guys, I feel like, for example, I'm telling you, I feel like 7 is an unlucky number and that should not be printed in my output. Did you catch my point? I feel like 7 is an unlucky number that should not be printed in my output now. If that is the case, is break only used in loops? I said your break is used in switch case and loop. And again, you're asking, is break only used in loops? Break is used two places here. One is switch case and one is loops. I already clarified that. Okay. So change your name here. What's your name? Monster. Change your name first. Put your proper names. Just watch. I don't laugh here. Okay. So just watch. So basically, when you're just using it, yeah, again, I don't want to see 7 in my output. I don't want to see 7 in my output. Then how to write? 2 loops I need to write. 1 to 6, 8 to 100. I don't want to see 77 also in my output. 3 loops I should write. 1 to 6, 8 to 76, 78 to 100. So I need to write 3 loops now. Are you clear? Without that, you can do like this. If I double equals to 7 or I double equals to 77, continue. What is the output, you know? The output is 1 to 100 without 7 and 77. The output is 1 to 100 without 7 and 77. Why, sir? What happens? Say, I starts with 0. Sorry, I starts with 1. Is the if condition true or false? I started with 1. Is the if condition true or false? False, na. Where you are putting your brain here? I 1, na. What is the if condition? 7 or 77? If condition false. If condition false, it will print you I. I is 2. If condition false, prints you 2. Until 6. If condition false only, na, prints you 1 to 6. Now I is 7. If condition true, right? When if condition is true, what it executes? Continue. When it comes to continue, control jumps to I++. When it comes to continue, control jumps to I++. Means I becomes what? 8. And the loop continues. Understand the meaning of it. Break. Break means stop it. Continue means don't stop your continue. Come on. I became 8 now. Continue the loop. So again, when will this happen? This will happen for the second time at 77. At 77, again it will go here and it will become 78. Means at 7 and 78, 77. At 7 and 77, it is not going to the right line statement. It is not going to the right line statement. Where it goes? I++. Watch this. Did you understand the picture? Yes or not? When you are at 7 and when you are at 77, the control will automatically jump to I++. If the control jumps to I++, I is not printed. I is not printed. Say, when 7 continue comes here, means you skipped this line now. Correct, na? When I is 7, continue, you came up to I++, means you skipped a console or right line now. You went up to I++. I becomes 8. Loop continues. The loop continues. Again, when will this happen? It will happen for the second time at the 77. Okay. Suppose, guys, in what type of scenarios we use, you know? You're printing the mark sheets of students who have attended for the exams. You are printing the mark sheet of the students who have attended for the exam. Okay. So mark sheet has to be printed. You written some code. Some 50, 60 students are there. How many students are there? I don't know, but I have written a loop. Now, what is the loop doing? You know, the loop is bringing one by one record from the database and sending it to the printer, and the printer is printing the mark sheet. Are you clear? The code is bringing the records from the database, bringing student 1 data. Okay, formatting it, sending it to printer. Printer prints you the report now. So some 50 students are there here, 50 students. But in this, 2 students are absent. Do I need to print a mark sheet for them? 2 students are absent. Do I need to print a mark sheet for them? No, not required. No? When student is absent, he did not attend for the examinations at all. There is no point of giving him a mark sheet in the school now. Did you get my point or not? So now in my code, my condition check will be there. What is that? We write a loop now, brings one by one record. On the top, I'll check. What I'll check? Absent or present. If absent, if student is absent, I'll say continue. When I say continue, it will go to next student automatically. Means it is not going to process the student and send it to printer. That mark sheet will be printed. So whenever you get the absent flag, it will go to next records. It is going to go to the next records to you. Loop won't stop. Loop will continue. Understand the meaning? Okay. And you can use continue only in a loop. We can use continue only in a loop. My intention is to make you understand, guys, what to use when. You learned about go to in your C language. You learned about break in your C language. You learned about continue in your C language. I'm not teaching about them. What I'm teaching, when to use and why to use. When to use a break. When to use a break, I said to you. What are that? Emergency scenarios. You want to terminate. Use break. When to use continue, I said to you. I don't want to stop the loop. I only want to skip few iterations. I want to skip few iterations. Here, I'm skipping 2 iterations now. What to? 7 and 77. I want to skip few iterations. Then I go for using continue. I want to completely terminate the loop. Then I'll go for using break. Okay. See, break can be used in switch and loop. Continue can be used only in loop. Are you clear? You cannot use of whatever you want, wherever you want. Understand that point only clearly. Where can I use what? You cannot write continue wherever you want. You can write continue only in a loop. Mostly we use it in for loop. Mostly we use it in for loop. Okay, now. And second thing, break. Break also cannot be used wherever you want. You can use break only in a switch case statement or in a loop. Anywhere in a loop. Any loop, no problem. Okay, but continue only loop, mostly for loop. Okay, are you clear with the scenarios? Yes or not? Completely stop it, break. Skip few iterations, continue. Okay, now? I give you examples for all the things, guys. Here you see I give an example for break also. You can see here. For loop, if I is equals to 50, break. Control will jump here. Okay, now? Continue. For loop again. When I say continue, control will jump here. The control will jump here. So where it jumps, I shown you in pictorial format for you from where to where it is going to jump to you. So control jumps here and continues the process of execution. Okay. All this code, what you'll do, take some sample program and put them in the main and execute them. Array, till now every day I'm writing code for you in the main and showing you. I'm leaving it for you to practice. Write a program, guys. Give some name to the program. Write a main method. Put this code in the main. Run the code and see the outputs. I'm leaving it for you only. Clear? Okay. Just to practice, guys. Okay. The last one. What is the fourth one? Return. The fourth statement is return. Do you remember about return statement we learned in C? Why did we use return? Tell me. In C language, why did we use return? Don't read the notes. Don't look into the notes. To carry a value, yeah, not like carrying a value, to return a value. We use return statement to return a value. If a function is value returning, we use a return statement to return a value. I shown you an example also in the starting classes to you. Int add, int x comma, int y, int z is equals to x plus y. We use a return statement to return a value. So our teachers have said it very clearly. What is it? Return is to return a value from a function. Return is to return a value from the function. Okay. Even when I learned C language, even my teacher also taught me the same point only. Return is to return a value. And for you also, you are forgetting everything. That's what your problem is. You are forgetting everything. You to learn the same thing only. Return is to return a value. Are you clear? But that is wrong. What my teacher taught me or what you learned, that is wrong. Return is not to return a value. Then return is a jump statement. Return is a jump statement used for jumping out of a function or a method in execution. I repeat, return is a jump statement used for jumping out of a function or a method in execution. There is a function or a method in execution. I want to jump out of it, then we use return. Then we use return. Okay? And listen, let me complete it. While jumping out, you have an option to carry a value outside. While jumping out, you have an option to carry a value outside, which is only secondary but not primary. Did you catch my point? While jumping out, you have an option to carry a value outside, but that is not primary. That is only secondary. Means returning a value by a return is a secondary job. What our teachers have taught us. Are you clear? But the primary job of return is jump out of a function or a method. It is not mandatory to return a value at all. Returning a value is only optional. Okay, I'll show you. Watch it. Look at this. Concentrate on this. I'm writing a program here. Table.cs. My file name is table.cs. What I want to do, I just want to prompt the user for a number. Class table. Static void main. Let me prompt the user to enter a number. Okay, now console.write, enter a number. Enter an integer value to print its table. To print its table. Nothing here. I want to print the multiplication table of a number. That's all. You give 7. I want to print the multiplication table of 7 now. Okay, now. From where to where? Your choice here. 1 to 10. 1 to 10 means, suppose you enter 13. It should print the multiplication table of 13 from 1 to 10. 13 ones are 13, 13 twos are 26. Like this, 13 tens are 130. Understood the requirement? The requirement is to print the multiplication table of a given number. Let me read it first. How to read? Int x is equals to int dot parse console dot read line. Okay. Now let me print the multiplication table. So you want to print the multiplication table now. How to print? Say, I'm writing a for loop. For int I is equals to 1. I less than or equal to? Because we plan to print from 1 to 10. Okay. Now come here. I want to print the output. How I want to see the output, Listen, I want to see the output like this. What? Suppose you enter 13. It should print me 13 ones are 13. 13 twos are 26. 13 threes are 39. That's how it has to print. Okay, now? To get that output, I'm writing the code. Console dot. Concentrate on this. Console dot write line. Now, inside of this string, you need to enclose some variables. Array, you're required to enclose some variables and some static values also. What is that? Array, x is a variable, I is a variable. You need to use them in your code now. And to do that, I said you 3 options already in the last class. I have shown you 3 options in the last class to you. What are the 3 options? One is concatenation, the very traditional operation. Second one, placeholders. Second one is placeholders. Third one, string interpolation. The third option is string interpolation. Which one is easy? We discussed. So I'm prefixing it with a $. Okay, now what I want first? I want x first. I want x first. Afterwards, into I is equals to Are you clear, all of you? Yes or not? So x value will come there, I value will come here, and x into I value will come in the third place. If you want to write in the old way, what is the old way? Old way in the sense, placeholders. How do you write? 0, 1, 2, afterwards, x comma, I comma, x into I. If you want to write in the latest, how do you write? Interpolation. Put a $sign there and simply say x, I, x into I. That's it. You see the output now. Table.cs. I'm entering 19. Watch it, you got your output. Are you clear? Whatever you enter, it will print you the output now. I'm just going to enter 35. 98. Whatever I enter, it will print the multiplication table of the number. Okay, now guys, if I enter 0, it will print me multiplication table. But do you require a multiplication table for 0? 0 into any number is 0 only. Is it necessary 0 into 1 is equals to 0, 0 into 2 is equals to 0, 0 into anything is 0 only. And I'm giving 1, it will print the multiplication table of 1. This is also useless only. Any number into 1 is same. Any number into 0 is 0 only. Any number into 1 is same. So I don't want the multiplication table for 0 and 1, guys. I don't want the multiplication tables for 0 and 1. Is the point clear? If it is 0 or 1, the multiplication table should not be printed for me. Is the point clear? Yes or not? Okay, concentrate, guys. I am writing a small condition here. Concentrate on this. If x is equals to 0 or x is equals to 1. If it is 0 or 1, I want to stop the program here now. If it is 0 or 1, I want to stop the program here. Come on, now tell me. Can I use break here? Can I use a break here? Come on. Some are telling, say yes, some are telling no, some are playing a safe game. Don't answer anything. Answer, yeah. Right or wrong, answer something. Can I use a break there? No, we can't use. Yes, now I clarified you. If you want to use a break, there should be a loop or a switch case there. Do you have a loop or a switch case in the place where I use the break? Loop is present below, not there. There is no break there. Sorry, there is no loop there. There is no switch case also there. So I cannot use a break. Can I use a continue? Yes or no? Brainless. No, yeah. Where is loop there? Continue can be used only in a loop. Continue can be used only in a loop. That's what I clarified you now. If you want to use a break, you need a switch case or loop. If you want to use continue, you need a loop. There is no loop there. So continue also will not work now. Can I use go to? Can I use go to? Come on, guess. I'm asking you to guess, that's all. Can I use go to? Yes, you can. Go to XXX. But if you use go to, again you should come below here and you write XXX column and something. So when I say go to XXX, control will jump to XXX here. So go to can be used here. But I cannot use break there. I cannot use continue also there. Is it clear? The perfect one to use here is written. The perfect one to use there is written. When I use written, again I don't require to come in the bottom and use some labels or something. When I say written, control will straight away jump to end of the method. Are you clear? Now see, now tell me, did I use it for returning a value? Did I use it for returning a value? Why did I use it? I used it as a jump statement to jump out of the method. That's what I'm telling you. The primary job of a return statement is to jump out of a method. Understood my point or not? The primary job is to end a method execution. When I say return, the control straight away comes to end of the loop. Or if you come to end of the loop, then the for loop skipped execution now. Correct or not? What's the output? Look, recompiling. I'm giving 56. Oh, fine, no problem. I'm giving 0. I'm giving 1. Skipping or not? I'm giving 2. When it is 0 and 1, the break statement will skip out of it. Are you clearer? Sir, I want to print something there. You want to print it before written, write a print statement, console.write line something and use written there. That's all. Understood? Okay. Asaram, yes, you're right. In VB, we call it as exit sub. In C# it is written. It's a written statement. So written is mainly used for jumping out of a function or a method in execution. And listen, while jumping out, if required means optional, it can carry a value outside of the method. That is not mandatory. Okay, see here I shown you an example for returning a value. See that. What did you say? Return Z. So it is jumping out and bringing the Z also with it now. It is jumping out and bringing the Z value along with it. If I don't say return Z there, it will only jump out. But now jumping out and bringing the value also outside. Two things. So this is primary or secondary? Primary job is jumping out. Secondary job is carrying a value. But unfortunately, all our teachers have taught the same thing. Even when I learned C language, my teacher said me the same point to me. What is it? Return is to return a value. Okay, na? But exact meaning of the return is it's a jump statement. Are you clear till now? Yes or not? There is still a problem here. There's still a problem. I used a return, that's over, but still a problem is here. What is the problem? The problem is if I enter 0, you're skipping it. If I enter 1, you're skipping it. Fine. But if I enter -5, I'll get the multiplication table of it. Yes or not? I'm getting the multiplication table of -5. But did you learn printing the multiplication tables for negative numbers? Or did you learn about negative numbers? Array, positive or negative, multiplication table is same. For negative numbers, it's not different. Multiplication table of 5 is same. With a negative number, we'll put minus before that. That's all. The output won't change. Na? So that's why in the school, our teachers have never taught us the multiplication tables to negative numbers. Do you remember? Yes or not? They never taught us about the multiplication tables for negative numbers. What they taught is only for positive integers. Only for positive integers only, but not for the negative numbers. But if I enter a negative number now, it is printing me. I want to stop it. I wanted to stop it. I want to stop it. If you want to stop it, one thing you do here is already I'm just enter a integer value, but I'm saying enter a unsigned integer value. Remember, already explained you unsigned. Unsigned means positive integer. Enter a positive integer value. Okay, I'm just printing a message. But is there any guarantee? See, compile the code and execute the code. Very clearly telling enter a unsigned integer value. But even though I printed enter a unsigned integer value, is there any guarantee from you that the user will enter a unsigned integer value? Will you stand beside the user and see what is entering? If he's entering a wrong value, will you catch his hands and say, no, don't enter this? No, I can't do anything. So I said the user, but what is the guarantee? User will follow. Did you catch my point or not? What is the guarantee? User will follow. There is a board, no parking, but we still park the vehicles there only. Yes or not? So a signboard, see, basically we just show a message, unsigned integer value, enter means I cannot guarantee user will enter, but still if the user enters, we can't control him now. See, user entered. Still it has accepted. So to restrict this, one thing what I can do in my code is, without using int, I'm using uint. What I'm using? Uint. If I use uint, what should I use here? Uint.parse. Are you clearer? For everything, for every value type, parse method is there. If it is a double.parse. If it is a boolean, bool.parse. If it is uint, uint.parse. Okay, now. Okay, I'm using uint now. Now, if the user enters an unsigned integer value, what will happen? Did you get my question? If the user enters a unsigned integer value, what will happen? Let us see. If the user enters a unsigned integer value, what is going to happen? Let's try to understand about it. Okay. Recompile, execute. -5, error. It's giving you an error. What is the error? Overflow exception. Value is either too large or too small for a event 32. What is the too large or too small? Array, it is a positive value, too large. Negative value, too small. Understood? -5 is a too small value for event 32 because event 32 accepts only from 0. Event 32 accepts only from 0. If you accept only from 0, -5 is a smaller value only now. Yes or not? Then what is the larger value? Larger value means about 2 power 32 minus 1. Above 2 power 32 minus 1, that is a larger value. That is a larger value. Suppose if I am trying this with some value like this. I'm giving a value like this. See now? Now also got the error. Why? The value is larger. The value is larger than the size or the capacity of a 4-byte memory. Larger than the capacity of a 4-byte memory. Okay, that is secondary. We'll talk about these exceptions and all later. I'm not talking about that. Now, I am able to control one thing. What I am able to control? The program accepts only signed, not unsigned. The program accepts only, I'm wrong. The program accepts only unsigned, but not any signed values. Understood or not? If you try to enter negative value, what is happening? Error coming. But that is also wrong. Huh? What is wrong? Error coming is wrong. Why? Why do you get errors here? If your programs, you won't see errors. You need to show some message to user telling him, please enter only an unsigned integer value. Please enter only an unsigned integer value. I need to display a message like this. Are you getting me? When exactly this error came, can you guess? When this error came in the code? On what line the error is coming? I selected the 6 lines there. On that 6 lines, in which line is the error coming? What is that? Someone said right. Second line. The error comes in second line, yeah. Why second line? Because on the second line only you are trying to convert this into event. When you are trying to perform a conversion, last class I explained to you, the value should be compatible of being converted. Do you remember or not? The value should be compatible of being converted. -5 is not compatible of being converted into event. That's why you got the error. Are you clear? The value must be compatible of being converted. But now the value is not being converted. So the error is present on this line. The error is present on this line. This should be controlled. This should be controlled. How to do that? We use the method here now. What is the method? Parse. Parse method, if the conversion fails, will give you error. Parse method, if the conversion fails, gives you error. To resolve it, we are provided with another method called as try parse. What is the method? Try parse. The try parse method, if conversion failed, will not give you any error. Will not give you any error, but will tell you. What it will tell you? Conversion success or failure, it will tell you. Did you understand what I am telling you? Parse method, if conversion fails, it won't tell me error. Program stops. But there is another method. What is the other method? Try parse. The try parse method will not throw any error at all. Will not throw any error. But if the conversion failed, it will tell you. What it will tell you? Conversion failed. Are you clearer or not? Ray. Throwing error is dangerous here. Programs are terminating in the middle. Throwing an error will terminate the program in the middle. I need to control it. I need to control this. So to control this, we are given with another method called as try parse. By using the try parse, we can restrict this particular problem. Are you clear? How to use that, I'll tell you in the tomorrow class. Tomorrow I'll teach about the try parse and we'll talk about arrays, for each loop, and all the things I'll tell you tomorrow. Okay, let's stop here. We'll meet tomorrow.